Hi, I'm Jean Farish. I'm here with Jacob de Graaf, and I'm in North Carolina. He's in the Netherlands. And through the magic of the internet and wonderful technology, we're able to put this Floss Tube episode together. And we are just so glad that both his viewers and my viewers are able to see this today. And it's something I've been wanting to do for a while. So first of all, I started to say Jacob's talking to us from Amsterdam, but you're not in Amsterdam. You are in
I am in
Rotterdam?
Rotterdam, indeed. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, we moved to Rotterdam about 5 years ago. We used to live in the UK before that, and yeah, now we live in beautiful Rotterdam. It's quite close to Amsterdam anyway, as pretty much everything in Holland, South and North Holland, is close by. When you look at it, you can get to Amsterdam by train in about 40 minutes. The Hague is 30 minutes. Delft is even closer by. Gouda is super close by, from the Gouda cheese. So all of these wonderful places, they're so close by for us. So it's yeah, it's really Kinderdijk, the famous windmills, is like just a 20-minute bus ride, I think, from us. So it's yeah, it's quite cool that way. Yeah.
Well, when two needlework designers get together, there's so much we can talk about, but we really want to make sure that we cover the fact that Jacob's going to be teaching a workshop for Stitcher's Escapes in just about a year, August of 2026 in Amsterdam. And so we want to talk about that before we get off on too many tangents. And we
Which
are
we
really
surely will.
excited about it. When we were planning our cruise out of Amsterdam, which is actually going to be heading north into Norway, I asked Jacob to be our onboard teacher talent. And he said,
No.
I don't do both.
I love the idea of going on a boat, but it's just not for me. It really terrifies me. I am really bad with boats. I don't have sea legs. So I was like, no. I said like that would just be uh, the country itself, to view the things on the sea and everything, absolutely spectacular. I would love to hang out with everyone on a thing like that, but it's just the boat thing for me. It's just
So this is the next
terrifying.
best thing. When we get back to Amsterdam after the cruise, we'll have a day of sightseeing, and then on August 3rd and 4th, we'll be at the Amsterdam Marriott, and Jacob is going to do a 2-day workshop, and there'll be two amazing projects that he's going to be teaching. So the participants are going to get full kits for each of the two projects. And you're also going to be bringing your own personal collection of samplers.
Yes, well, a small tip of the iceberg of my collection. I think I need a U-Haul or something like that to bring everything, but there is quite a few I will be bringing, and it's yeah. I'm gonna bring samplers. So some folks might have been to the previous retreat as well in Amsterdam, so I will bring different samplers this time with me that they won't have seen. So it's going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. As you mentioned, there's two main projects that are being stitched up. One of them is based on Frisian samplers, and one of them is based on Daning samplers. Now, the Frisian one is for me really close to my heart because I am Frisian. I am from the northern province of Friesland in
Oh,
the
I didn't know
Netherlands.
that. Huh.
Yeah, so it's so there's two northern provinces that we have, Friesland and Groningen, and their sampler history really is closely linked. Often Groningen is sort of put aside because of the beautiful black samplers that you see in the 19th century. But before that, in the 18th and sort of late 17th century, the surviving pieces that we have, those samplers look a lot like Frisian samplers. Sometimes it's really hard to tell on first sight. You think like, oh yeah, that's a Frisian sampler, and then you look a little bit closer, and then there are some distinct things that make it a Groningen sampler. But those two sampler traditions are really quite linked for a long time, and it's really cool as well because the Frisian girls they kept their sampler traditions quite long as well, like up until the sort of the late 19th century. In both Groningen and Friesland, you still see samplers being produced, even though the rest of the Netherlands pretty much stopped their local traditions. In the, I forgot the exact year, but I think it's somewhere in the 1870s, the school curriculum is started, which is a wonderful thing because it means that girls can go to school, they will learn all the basic skills that you need to get a job. So it's a really huge step towards female empowerment and emancipation and all of that stuff. But at the same time, sadly, it also meant that the crafts things that they had to learn was something called nuttig en fraai, which basically means pretty and basically usable. So something that makes sense to use. So they
Mhm.
wanted not these fancy old samplers from the past that were deemed basically too decadent and too fanciful, that had no effect, because these old motifs, they were used on traditional dress. And we're just at a time in the Industrial Revolution and everything that traditional dress is disappearing, everything becomes factory made. So why should these girls be making these old samplers with these motifs that they're not going to be using anyway on their stuff? So suddenly you see kind of the death of the local tradition samplers. And this is pretty much the samplers that were made in schools in throughout the Netherlands. So basically this one is a Frisian sampler. This was made by my auntie. I look forward to visiting her soon again. She made this in 1943, so during World War II, she stitched this.
Oh.
And she gifted this to me because she said, like, you do stuff with cross stitch. The kids don't really care about this at all. And she also told me, she said, like, I made this. It's the only piece of embroidery that I ever made, and I hated every stitch. And I love that. That's typical for my aunt. She's really cheeky. I think she had a really uninspiring, terrible teacher who was like, that's wrong. Basically, pick the stitches out. So she said, like, I had to stitch this thing like a couple of times, like, constantly picking stuff out and doing it again. But it is really cool. And what I like as well, I was wondering about why the alphabets are so weird, because it starts here with ABC, but it starts here with I, H, M, N,
Yeah.
J, and L. And I was like, that's so random. Why would they do that? But it's because you start with a line, which is easy. Then you do a zigzag, which is a slightly more complex one. Then you do a jump line with little crosses. Then you do this sort of motive, which is a little bit more like you need a bit more experience in counting for the meander that you have here, and then a round meander. And then you start your letters, but you start with the simplest. So the I is the simplest letter. And then the H is basically two I's together. The
Right.
M just has a tiny little bit there, the N as well, etc. So you basically made all these letters more and more complex until you had done all of them. And then you would just do all the letters again in basically the correct alphabet order. And you see that on a lot of Dutch samplers. And I never knew that. And it was only when I asked someone, I was like, it's so weird. And I thought,
That's
like,
interesting because when I was in high school and
yeah,
in regular art class, and we were had a unit on lettering, that's exactly how my teacher taught it. Was you
yep,
started with the simplest letters, and then each letter, like once you've designed a P, then just adding a leg makes it an R.
yep,
And and it's really interesting when you look at the structure of letters, how
yep,
similar they are. And I
yep,
can see where doing them as building blocks makes sense.
absolutely.
So Jacob, we can easily get into the danger of presenting your workshop within this floss tube episode.
Yes,
And I know it'll end up getting, like I say, I'm sure we could end up spending hours talking about
absolutely.
it. Because I don't know if you know this, but my first professional publication was a sampler reproduction. That was the original was stitched by Janet Irving, who is the great 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 grandmother of my two daughters
Oh, wow.
through their father's family.
That's amazing.
And I was able to do the research. Um, she was 7 years old when she stitched it, and they were in Scotland when she married into the Farish family, and they had a young son. And I want to say he was still an infant when they immigrated to the United States. Well, it wasn't I guess it was the United States then, you know, because it was after the revolution.
Yeah,
So, and they settled in New Jersey, and, you know, they, the sampler just kept being handed down in the family. And
amazing.
finally, you know, and nobody really treasured it until I came in its possession.
Yeah,
But when you think about this young woman leaving her homeland and packing and knowing she's never going to go back home
yeah,
again, one of the things she packed was the sampler,
yeah. It's
you know.
fantastic, isn't
So
it?
yeah, it really is fascinating how these connections through time and through
Yeah,
geography, through language barriers,
yeah.
connects us all.
And
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 I
the
think
that
that
shows you
that,
the importance of the sampler as well as a tool to use as a reference for marking your clothing. That you had the alphabets that you could sort of spy on your sampler and then know, like, okay, this is how I do those letters. If she would have forgotten them, she could have just used that again, and she could have used that sampler again for her daughter to sort of, teach her the
right.
alphabets and everything. So it's, yeah,
Well, one of the things that I learned about the purpose of stitching the alphabet was that you would, when a young woman was preparing for her own household, people don't really think about the fact that, like, all your bed linens were hand woven
yeah,
and they were made to last a lifetime. And
absolutely.
so two of the things that I learned, I don't, you know, I don't know, I've never verified this, but the two things that I've learned is that you would stitch your initials in the corner of your bed linens. And one of the purposes was so that each time you made the bed, you would rotate the linen so that the initials were in a different corner so that the sheets would wear evenly over the decades
Yeah.
that were used. And the other thing was that in communities where there was communal washing, um, it was a way of identifying, it was like a laundry mark. You know,
Absolutely.
when you send your shirts to the laundry,
Yeah.
the first thing they do is label them in some
Yeah.
way.
And the rotating thing
Um,
as well, you're right about that. There was two ways where what I've heard as well, like what you were saying, but also the one where you put a number on your linens. So
yes,
you put basically however many pieces you had that you could rotate. So for instance, if you had like 5 or 6 sheets, you would rotate them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you knew that
yes,
if you had used sheet one, then the next one that you had to use was sheet two. And then you could
yeah,
put sheet one in the wash
yeah.
so you would not get like this.
And it wasn't unusual for households to have ledgers of their inventory, and they
Yeah,
would say how many pillowcases they had, how many sheets they had, how many towels they had.
that's so cool as well when you go to the ancestry records and you do your family research stuff, and you find sometimes some families when they passed away, the person would leave behind a will, and some of these wills are extremely detailed. Sometimes it's just like, leaves this sum of money, so many guilders to so and so, but some other ones they have really like full inventories of everything in the house,
Right.
and it is incredible because you couldn't do it anymore now because our houses are full of that basically. Like I think anyone who had to make an inventory of all of this around me would go absolutely nuts. But it was very much like everything they had a purpose at that time as well. It wasn't like, unless you had like a proper collector or someone who was very rich, but people just had furniture that they needed, they had the linens that they needed, and the silverware or whatever they had that was important to them. And yeah, it is really beautiful. I have some linen pieces. I don't know, can I reach? Yeah, there is one here, which is someone cut this off, which is just shocking. But this is a Frisian bed linen piece,
Wow.
and that's just really lovely. And this is from 18, what is it, 50? Yeah, 1853. And
And
that's
I
just
think a
really
lot of people
beautiful.
will recognize that style of alphabet style
Yeah,
as Frisian.
this is a proper
Um,
Frisian alphabet indeed. And you see it both in Friesland and in Groningen, these letters. But yeah, they're really.
I'm keeping an eye on the clock here, Jacob, because I remember that you
Yes.
told me that you've got an appointment
No,
following that.
don't worry. It should absolutely be absolutely fine. We're
Right.
absolutely good to go for quite some time.
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, the Frisian
So
samplers is going to be one bit of the workshop. So it's going to be the white work found on Frisian samplers. So I've made a design for a white work design that we're going to be teaching on one day, and the other one is darning, decorative darning techniques that you see on Dutch samplers. I'll leave it up
darning
to you.
samplers are something that have always fascinated me. I think
Me
because
too.
I wouldn't call myself a weaver, but I've done some weaving, and I
Yeah,
know that basically that's again, it was the practical application of
yep.
learning how to darn things again, because the expectation was that whatever you made was going to last your lifetime.
Absolutely, yeah. Uh, it's fascinating. I just want to share this sampler as well, which is just really cool. This is a sampler from the 1800s by a girl who was quite poor. And now, if you see it like this, you'd think like, Jacob, why did you buy this? It's washed out, it's full of holes, it's not spectacular at all. And that is exactly why this sampler is so special. So this
Right.
is stitched on an old shirt. So this is basically a shirt or some other form of linen that they had that was repaired so many times. I'll show you the close up as well so you can see how many. And then there is the hem on the side here. That's the hem on the side of the shirt. So it's really quite spectacular. And then she stitched over that.
Oh,
So even when the whole piece was basically like the shirt was completely worn and threadbare and they had darned it so many times that it was literally just falling apart, some poorer families would then just cut up the shirt and give it to their daughter to try
wow.
some stitching on. So that's for me, this is such a special and unique sampler that this girl made this sampler with poor quality silk threads. They're really washed out. I don't even know if they are silk or just a cheap cotton type thread or whatever. But they're really washed out. They're really pale, and it's really moving to me that this girl obviously didn't have like huge riches, but she still made this wonderful sampler with these
Right.
letters uh, in preparation to make these bed linens that I just showed and to make the shirts that, you know, she and her husband and their children would be wearing. That was all the prep that you needed. And I find that really moving that such a sampler exists. So, yeah, when I saw this one, I was really
Yeah.
determined to buy that one. Uh, but the darning itself is really fascinating. So you have two types of darns. You've got the weaving darn that you mentioned, which is really important when you have holes on your fabric. But there's also a strengthening darn that you can use, which is like these lovely little samplers here.
Oh,
And
okay.
this is basically what I will be teaching in one
Wow.
kit. So this will be a sampler that I will be presenting. Both of the designs will be completely monochrome, but if people fancy using color, you know, like, and or if they want to stitch with silks or whatever, you know, you're free to do whatever you want, really.
Right.
The kit will include the monochrome materials. So
Right.
all of these samplers, these are all sort of, you know, late 19th, early 20th century,
Right.
but they're really lovely darning motifs. Just look at those
Yeah.
amazing patterns. And it's fascinating because it's something that you have to get your head around it, how you do these techniques. In the beginning, it's a little bit like, oh gosh, this is quite tricky to get your brain, you know, to sort of do this whole
Right.
weaving thing through the linen because
Right.
we're so used to sort of see the linen as a grid for your crosses you go over two, or if you have some specialty stitches, you can do a cross over three or whatever. But like you're thinking in grids, and suddenly you have to think in a completely different way about your linen and calculate your stitches completely differently. And
Right.
it's quite fascinating. And yeah, the darning sampler history is just really spectacular as well because, for instance, this sampler here. This is a sampler from Middelburg,
Right.
and sadly, it is quite washed out, the colors. You can see a little bit more color on the back.
Wow.
Someone sadly put this right into the sun, which they shouldn't have, but sadly happens a lot. But this one is on the education of Adriana de Vroe, who was one of the teachers in Middelburg School. And that's really, yeah, this is kind of a really looked sort of, like a wanted sampler, this type of style of sampler. So I'm really happy that I have one of those. Let me just see. There is a really gorgeous one that I have here. I'm just gonna, sorry for the crinkling because I'm sort of trying to do this a little bit sensibly. This is a sampler that I bought last year, I believe. And let's see, she's stuck on the paper as well
Oh,
because she was glued
beautiful.
onto something, so I keep her on this piece. But
Wow.
she is amazing. She's got beadwork. You can see that at the center. And
Wow.
then there's cross stitch, but it has these beautiful motifs, like really inspiring, wonderful motifs that you get on that. So that's a really wonderful 19th century sampler. This one was stitched
Right.
in 1854,
Right.
probably in Belgium. Uh, but yeah, I was really excited about
That
this
is really
particular sampler.
lovely. Well, Jacob, one of the things I want to make sure that I mention is some of the practical things. Like I said, this is going to
Yeah,
be the Amsterdam Marriott, and people are welcome to also stay at the hotel. We did not include the hotel rate in our class fee,
yeah,
um, partly with the hopes that we would get some local stitchers
yeah,
come. Um, but also people are free to stay wherever they want to stay. But
exactly.
the our fee does include lunch both days, beverages, snacks, and from our research, the Amsterdam Marriott is a lovely facility, and
Yeah.
it's right on the edge of the canal ring, so the
Yeah,
location is
I
really
think it's the
good.
River Eye, just near the train station. So it's
Right.
really quite easy to
Yes.
get to as well.
Yes.
So it's close to the water, and basically from there, it's really easy to get into the city as well. You can just
Right.
jump on a tram or a metro or just walk if the weather is nice.
I
Uh,
think that one of the things that is attractive to a lot of the Americans that are coming
mhm.
is that this workshop is taking on an international flair. We have people from, I think already our registrations include people from at least 6 different countries.
Which is nice, isn't
We
it?
to get a few more. So
Yeah,
it kind of brings into real life what you and I have been talking about, that
yeah,
this love for needlework crosses boundaries, it
yeah,
crosses language. And what a wonderful opportunity for those that are available and would like to come to be able to be a part of this
yeah,
gathering. We don't have a lot of openings left, but we have about a half a dozen, I think, at this point. And if the demand grows and the hotel has space, then we will expand.
exactly.
And so I will put the website address. I will add that in the episode notes,
Yeah.
and you can just go right online and register. And we would just love to see people who love what we love,
Yeah.
to gather together and celebrate this love of needlework.
And it's such an important thing as well when you are like me, you're a designer, so you just sit mostly in your home studio, uh, looking at things, reading books, clicking on a computer, making patterns, and doing stuff like that. So then to get the opportunity to actually meet people and
Right,
to teach stuff is such a nice experience.
right,
I don't do it nearly enough, I have to say. I'm starting to do a few things. Next year, there are a couple of things lined up, and this year as well, which is really cool. But it is a really wonderful way to engage with people and meet people, and
right.
also meet the people that don't look funny when you say, "Oh, I do cross stitch" or "I do embroidery," and they go like, "Oh, that's awesome," instead of like, "Oh." And then you get that sort of that look that says, okay, sure. Which is just like, kindred spirit type of audience, which is just really, really nice, I think. Yeah.
It's almost like our version of a secret handshake, that when you're in an airport and you're stitching.
Yeah.
Um, Other people who do what we do
Yeah.
will gravitate
Yes.
and start some sort of a conversation.
Yeah.
That
I had that in a museum in uh, excuse me, a museum in Middelburg when I collected a bunch of samplers. And it was so exciting because I was looking at stuff and I thought like I'll just have a cup of coffee and I'll just look at the samplers that I had just picked up from the auction house, because the auction house had just made one photo of a pile of samplers dumped on the table and that was pretty much it. And I knew there was some really exciting stuff in that lot, so I had bought it and I picked it up, but I couldn't really look at it, and you don't want to keep up, the people at the auction house as well. So I thought like, yeah, brilliant. So I just rolled them up nicely, put them in my bag, and went my merry way into the city. And then I went to the museum shop and I thought like I'll sit down with a nice cup of coffee and I'll start looking at that. So I roll out these samplers, and within a few minutes I had like a whole group of ladies around me and they were all like, "Oh, what have you got there?" I was like, "Oh, this is fantastic." And I used to stitch as well, and another lady was like, "I still stitch." And it was like, so there was immediately a crowd of people, which was just so nice to sort of,
yeah.
share that with them as well. But it's really exciting to do that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to share all of these samplers as well. Shall I show you a few more pieces that I have? I don't want to share them all because I have a.
Sure, a few more.
So
We've got
there's
time.
this lovely one
Oh,
here,
wow.
which is a souvenir sampler, which is just
Hmm.
really charming, and it's nice as well because it is still completely in the original. The backing on it still there, which is just really lovely, I think. So I was, yeah, quite happy with that, with the little ribbons on the top here as well, which is just so sweet.
Wow.
So that's
Jacob,
this.
why is red such a common color in these sorts of samplers?
So for me, this is purely something that I have been thinking about a lot myself. Why is red so common? And I think it is because the red floss that you would use, they used it to mark clothing, right? So a lot of clothing had little red marks on them, and I think red stands out really nicely because most of your linens are white.
Right.
So when you have like a red thread, that stands out really nicely. And red used to be dyed with madder. Madder was an affordable color, was super color fast. A lot of other colors, they would either bleed. A lot of indigo, for instance, if you wash indigo and you stitch it on linen and you wash it, your linen will turn blue. If you wash your madder properly, it won't, after a couple of washes, it won't give off any red anymore. So it's not a color that bleeds. So my theory is that girls would learn to stitch with red because it shows up really clearly, but also because the marking was done with the red threads because they wouldn't bleed on the clothing. But I mean, this wasn't written down, right? There's no sources that we have exactly for why this was. So this is sort of like a thought that I have had. Why is this red so
Right.
common? And then, of course, in the 19th century, like I was mentioning, in the 1970s, when you have the curriculum, the useful and pretty curriculum that girls had to make these samplers, they had to stitch with red. They had to make a red sampler like the one I showed you earlier. And that was always red. And I think that was from that historical use of red as a
Hmm.
good color. So red before that is not super common. It's only in the later 19th century that you see a lot of red samplers. But before that, sometimes you see them. So like it's not very common, especially not in the Netherlands. I think when you look at some German samplers and they do these satin stitch, really gorgeous alphabet samplers, and you see them from the late 1700s, early 1800s, and they are worked in red as well. But that's kind of rarer. Like those types of samplers, not that common. Usually it's just lovely colors. Like this sampler, for instance, this is so exciting, and I cannot
Wow.
wait for people to see this one. So I found this one in an antique shop in Amsterdam, and I saw this, and I thought this is fake. This can't be an original sampler from 1810. That is just too bright. This, just look at the back, it's exactly the same colors as the front.
Wow.
And it was sort of folded up in a little pile. It's stitched, I believe it's not linen. I think it is, or is it linen? yeah, I think it's wool or wool mix. It feels a bit too soft for linen, if you know what I mean. But
Mhm.
I saw this sampler, and this is basically some of the stitches that we will be doing during the retreat. So all of these sort of,
Right,
decorative darning stitches. Um,
right.
it is a real sampler. It is not a fake. The linen is correct. I asked the sampler expert, like, is it correct? Just look how crazy those pinks still are. Usually those
Wow.
fade really, and the yellows as well. So this sampler has basically been made by this girl. I found her as well. She was from the south of the Netherlands. She went to a Catholic school, which you can see as well in the symbolism on the central
Right.
panel. But it's really quite extraordinary that this sampler is in such extraordinary condition. That's not something that you see. Usually the colors fade much more, like when
Hmm.
you have something like this,
Oh,
one of
wow.
those traditional, and then you can see the back. That's quite a bit more colorful there already. So it's very exciting to sort of see those colors. This was purchased from a lady who had a whole bunch of samplers that she got rid of. Some of them haven't even been finished. This one doesn't have the center or the,
Hmm.
but they're just really gorgeous. And just look at the colors on the back.
Wow.
So extremely colorful. It's really quite exciting, those ones. Let's see, what have I got here? I have some really nice Frisian ones as well, because the decorative darning is, we're doing that on one of the days of the workshop. And then I'm just going to put these ones whoop, here, so they're out of the way. The second part of the workshop is based on Frisian whitework, and when you think of white work, that sounds very intimidating, stitching white on white, and it's done with linen on linen and all of that. But the thing is, when girls learned these techniques, they weren't stitching with linen on linen at all. They were using very colorful threads, and they made really fun patterns with them. So usually they were working with silk for their sampler, and then they would make these bands in white work on these samplers. So for instance, this
Wow.
really cheerful sampler, most likely somewhere from Friesland or from West Friesland in North Holland. So if you look at the top, those are whitework bands here,
Hmm.
and they are nearly always worked fully in color because it's much easier to see.
Right.
So for the lesson as well and for the kit, we're doing like the darning sampler, which is going to be a red darning sampler. We're also doing a red whitework sampler. So because that way you have a good reference to learn the stitches, to get used to the techniques, and then once you feel comfortable, you can say like, hey, let's do this actually with proper linen on linen. I'm happy to share some details of the materials required. I've got a lovely book as well about whitework, which I will be bringing. But yeah, so these samplers always had all of these wonderful bands. So you see all of these bands
Mhm.
here on the left here. That's all whitework,
Right.
and that's all super colorful, as you can see. And there's just alphabets there. And then there is this one, which was one of the samplers that I purchased from that auction in Middelburg that I was talking about, where I was in the museum looking at the samplers. But just look how super bright these colors are.
Right.
So this is from 1765, and I mean, isn't this incredible that this is still... That's the back of it. The interesting thing as well, you can see here that the back is, I mean, it's not super sloppy, but it is not the neatest either. You can see
Right.
carrying threads. And whitework supposedly is a fully reversible technique, but I have seen on most of the samplers that the girls wouldn't bother about stitching the back very neatly. So that's also something that, be kind to yourself when you learn a technique. You can learn to do it, fully reversible in time. Just get the techniques done down first. Once you know what you're doing, then you can sort of start focusing on trying to do something that's really beautiful, both on
Right.
the front and the back. But it's not a it's not necessary. There's this really sweet sampler which has been
Oh, that is sweet.
super bleached. But this one was originally as well. You can see the silks giving a really nice sheen to the, if I
Hmm.
do that. It's really gorgeous. Um, And this is most likely from the southwest, sort of the area where I grew up, and then most likely near the coastal region near Hinderloop when this was made. And it's got really lovely motifs there, all in white work,
Beautiful.
lovely white work alphabets there as well. I really like this one because the silks here have such a good sheen on this very
Um,
dark fabric, which is quite unusual. We don't see, like American samplers tend to have very dark linen, right? It's not something so common on Dutch samplers, but
well,
look at the sheen. That is just beautiful. And those bands are just absolutely
gorgeous.
wonderful. So that will be something that the project will be based on. Um, and then, yeah, like I said, when you feel really confident to make something with white on white, there is this lovely old sampler that I have. On first glance, you might think like, oh, she didn't do much work there because she just gave up after a while,
Right.
but it is filled with white work.
Oh, yeah. Gorgeous.
There's these beautiful bands here.
Very nice.
And she was a very good needlewoman. Her stitching is really wonderful. But again, it's not reversible because you can see here on the back,
Hmm.
do you see all the carrying threads and all of that?
Right.
So it's not perfect. And this was literally like the stuff that they would sort of, yeah, wear. This sampler is from 1749, which is just really wonderful.
Well,
And
Jacob, I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to, well, there's so many things I'm looking forward to with this, but nice combination of learning new stitch techniques, learning about just the whole culture of samplers and the history of samplers,
yeah,
and it's just so engaging to talk with you about your knowledge of needlework and just your love of what you're doing, and to be able to do it in such a beautiful city.
oh, that's
Um,
the most exciting part, isn't it? Yeah.
really looking forward to it. I guess I spent 3 days in Amsterdam the last time when I first
Mm,
met you. And we'll have about the same amount of time this trip, but just good food and just friendly
yep.
people and um, just the museums and the just the history is it's
The
just a
antique shops.
gorgeous, gorgeous place. Gorgeous.
There's some really good antique shops as well. I'm happy to share some of my favorite places with attendees as well that they should be visiting. There's some really lovely ones that sometimes have samplers. So if people, usually they're not that cheap either. So you have to sort of do some investing in that. But yeah, it is very exciting to do these things as well. While you're in Amsterdam, you have the chance to do these things. I would really recommend, yeah, checking that out as well.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people who are doing the cruise plus the workshop
Yeah.
will have a couple of days at their leisure before the cruise, and then when we get
Yeah.
back, like I said, it's like there's just so much to see.
Absolutely.
I know I'm not planning enough time, so we will see what we can fit in. And so, yes, if you would email me some suggestions of
Absolutely.
places not to miss, that would be great.
Yeah.
And
But it's just a wonderful region, and um, if yeah, I don't think people will have time for that. But if they have day trip time as well, there are some really lovely towns sort of around Amsterdam which are worth a visit.
right,
And because it is the summer holiday, stuff is open there as well, so that's really nice as well. Some of these places I would skip during the summer holidays as well. There are a couple of places where I would say like just don't go there. All the tourists go there, but there are also some areas where I would say like yeah, that's quite nice to check those places out. So I will email some stuff to you as well that you can pass on to the attendees a little bit closer to the event as well, so they can plan a few things maybe and see a few things which will be, yeah, I think really nice.
okay. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us today, and we will get it edited and put up on our your FlossTube channel as well as mine, and we will. I'm hoping that we'll do this more often and not just
Brilliant.
a one-off
I
here.
I would love to do that more often. I've been doing a couple of sit downs with people actually recently. I had a really nice live event with one of my friends, a floss tuber, a while ago, and it's just so nice to do these stitchy chat things and just have discussions like that and talk
Yeah.
samplers and because yeah, this has been a bit much the me show right now, but that's because we have the event planned, of course, which is why we did this chat in the first place. But I really would love to sit down with you another time as well and look at your path through designing and learn a bit more about how you approach things and
Yeah.
things in your collection. And I'm really curious about that as well to sort of see that a bit more.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
the whole cross-stitch industry has changed a lot since I started in 1981.
Yeah, it's crazy how much stuff has changed and how much digital things have become and the hierarchy of the big players have just completely disappeared. Like the big craft shops have shut down, other things have opened up. It's a completely different yeah,
It just constant changing, and you just have to keep
absolutely.
adapting.
Yeah. No, I'm at the end of the year, beginning next year, that's when am celebrating my 15th anniversary, which I'm quite excited about. Um, and one of my friends in the Netherlands who has a shop, Simone from Sudi Day, she is also next year celebrating her 15th anniversary. She was a little bit later. She started in August. But I thought that was really wonderful. So we're going to do a little 15th combination thing when we're both turning sort of 15
Yeah.
officially in 26. So that's also something really nice. So there will be some celebratory things happening next year as well.
Yep. Oh, good. Good. That's great.
Yeah, that's
So,
exciting. Yeah.
all right. Well, you take care, and we will look forward to the workshop with you, and
Yeah,
I hope that we can get some more people to join us, and
absolutely. I look forward to that, and I look forward to folks seeing them. And yeah, thank you for all of them who have been tuning into our little chat today as well.
okay. Well, thank you so much, and you have a good day.
You too, Jean. All
Okay,
right.
thanks. All right,
Bye
bye.
bye.